We're now talking to Phoenix Suns and Dallas Cowboys play-by-play broadcaster, our friend Kevin Ray. Kevin, my friend, what's up?
Gents, how we doing today?
Well, you look good, man. I mean, seriously, your hair's growing again. I mean, that's good. You're looking like you have a brighter smile. I mean, Kevin Durant is gone. We'll get into them in just a few moments. And by the way, the Cowboys finally land another offensive weapon. We'll see how this works out as he's another hard person to get along with in Mr. George Pickens. Let's go first with basketball because the Phoenix Suns just gave the one and only, their superstar a lot of money. They gave him a big contract. What was it? 2 years, 140. As there's a lot of people that thought he could be on his way out. Well, they paid him, so hopefully he keeps him there or keeps him happy for the next 2 years. And then before that ever happened, they had to get rid of a contract. They had to get rid of the big mouth himself in Kevin Durant. What were your thoughts to the move, sending Kevin Durant to Houston and then the $140 million contract?
Yeah, I'll start first with the trade of Kevin Durant. Nobody was surprised. It was pretty much expected, dating back to the trade deadline when the Suns attempted to move KD back then. And at that time, Houston was among the teams that they had some preliminary conversations with. It did not come to fruition, but considering the struggle the Suns had this season, didn't even make the play-in, and more importantly, considering the second apron, the tax that they were going to be hit with, and a team that, they gave it their best shot with Kevin Durant, Bradley Beal, Devin Booker, the big three. It just never panned out for a variety of reasons. Certainly not all on the shoulders of Kevin Durant, but you can't continue to pay that kind of money and certainly that kind of tax without, getting some wins. And they were not able to do that. Didn't win a playoff series with that trio. So the trade did not come as a surprise. I think that there was some initial feelings that maybe Miami would get in there, but Miami really never gave the Suns enough value in return. When you look at the overall trade, it was a good deal. A lot of people were really holding out hope that maybe Phoenix would somehow be able to get Tari Eason, Jabari Smith, and one of those two guys, some young, long, athletic wings. But that was not going to happen because unfortunately the Suns did lose a little leverage when that deal in February did not go through. And the Rockets, being at the top of the list, knew that. But I think all in all, everything considered, the Suns got pretty good value out of it, especially when you consider getting that number 10 pick and you get Kaman Malawach as a result.
Yeah, I was going to ask about the coaching end of it, too, because there was a lot of thoughts that Kevin Durant and Mike Budenholzer wasn't getting along. Bradley Beal and Mike Budenholzer weren't getting along. He goes, and now they bring in a younger guy, Jordan Ott from the Cavaliers, who obviously they won the number one seed in the East. So what are your impressions of him so far, and what do you think the Suns' trajectory will look like trying to get younger?
Well, I think first and foremost, you said it. It was a team that needed an influx of both youth and athleticism, something that they were sorely lacking over the last couple of years. And, as a result, getting, again, Malawach, getting the additional pieces they did, the trade moving up, getting Rasheer Fleming, you got Kobe Brea. I think when you look at the draft, the Suns really, I thought, in fact, many of the grades gave them anywhere from an A to a B plus. So I thought they did a really nice job getting younger, getting more aggressive. And as a result, or as it speaks to Jordan Ott, the Suns' new head coach, I'm excited about it. I think you can look at what Cleveland did this past season, both offensively and defensively. You look at the personnel the Suns have got now, and I can see Jordan obviously stealing some of those principles from Kenny Atkinson. One of the things that was really hard for Suns fans to watch over the last season and a half, especially, was just the lack of overall ball movement. And I think with this group and with Jordan Ott, you're going to see, a lot of player movement, a lot of ball movement. And then defensively, one thing they've said is they want dogs. They want guys who are going to get into people and defend. And that's music of the ears of Suns fans, because we just have not seen enough of it over the last two seasons.
Yeah, and Kevin, you always, the draft is a crapshoot. We all know that, and how it works. And we've talked about this on the show before too. Do you think they addressed what they needed? And do you think there's anything else that they need? And who do you think did a really good job on their draft and filling those voids of what they had?
Yeah, no, I think they did a really nice job, and you're absolutely right. You look, whether it's the NFL draft, the NBA draft, there's no exact science. You found throughout the years, second round guys who become, big time positional players, rotational players, impact players, and I do feel like the Suns have gotten themselves a couple guys in that second round that could be solid rotational guys. Again, Fleming, long, big wingspan with 7'4". Malawach, he's 7'1". He's got a massive wingspan. So I think that this draft, when you look at it, Brian Gregory, the entire scouting staff has done a marvelous job. And then now it's up to Jordan Ott and his coaching staff that's still being pieced together, to find the right way to make these guys work. And, I don't want to forget about the two young guys who played roles last season, Ryan Dunn and Oso Ighodaro. They'll get massive minutes here during the summer league and an opportunity to kind of show what they've been working on, what they've improved upon. And those two guys will be solid rotational players as well.
Kevin, I mentioned Devin Booker, and he just got a big contract, $70 million a year. He's the highest paid basketball player in the NBA right now, singly, every single year. I think Devin Booker's a guy that a lot of people are going to be interested in, especially if Phoenix falls behind early in the season and might not even be a playoff contender. At the trade deadline, remember, it's only a 2-year deal. He is making a significant amount of money. I mean, Devin Booker is one of the best twos in the NBA. I don't think you can argue that. He's one of the best shooters in the league. The guy can stretch the floor better than anybody can, especially in the Western Conference. Besides Steph Curry, who's better than Devin Booker? I mean, he's sensational. Do you see Phoenix moving him still, even if they extended him for the 2 years? If they fall behind this coming season, do you think they can move him?
No. Look, and keep in mind that extension was eligible. So he's essentially inked through 2030. So he's locked up for the next 5 years. And Book has said countless times he wants to be a Phoenix Sun for life. Now, we know, you look at a guy like Damian Lillard, everybody thought that would be the case with Dame. So I understand that things can happen, especially 3-4 years down the road. But when you look at this roster, this is not a team that's going to contend for a championship. And when you look at the Western Conference overall, they will have a hard time, making the playoffs. So I don't think that this year's record, slow start, fast start, will have any impact on whether the Suns looked and moved Devin Booker. Matt Ishbia has made it very clear through both his actions and his words, he doesn't want Devin Booker to go anywhere. So I think that's the first thing that people can kind of take off the table is Book's not going anywhere anytime soon.
All right. So we talked enough basketball because the big story is the Dallas Cowboys. All right. We all know that the Cowboys over the last couple of years, especially the Cowboy fans, Nathan and every single Cowboy, whatever you want to call them, America's team, the Cowgirls. Now, there are a lot of people that, including yours truly, said that Dak Prescott was being treated wrong. They don't give him enough weapons. They don't give him enough people on the edges as far as the wide receiving potential and talent over the years. They added George Pickens. That was the guy that they added in the offseason. They got him for practically nothing, honestly. And this guy could be a number one. I watched a video, Kevin, what was it, a week ago? And it was CeeDee Lamb and George Pickens. They were hanging out in an event. I don't remember. It was a baseball or football, flag football event. And they were getting interviewed. And CeeDee Lamb, who I wouldn't have thought that would go and say the things that he said early in the offseason with George Pickens there. He said, listen, there's no 1A, 1B. It's 1 and 1. And it's going to be very, very hard to defend me and leave this guy open. And
well, didn't he say you have 2 1s now? Not 1A, 1B. You have 2 1s.
1 and 1. That's what he said. There's no 1A and 1B. He said, I'm 1, he's 1, and that's the way we're looking at each other. So What are your thoughts there? Do you think this is going to work? George Pickens doesn't get along with a lot of people. There were stories coming out that him and Mike Tomlin weren't getting along. What a joke. Okay, so your thoughts to George Pickens working with a new head coach in Brian Schottenheimer?
Yeah, look, no one can or will dispute the just immense talent that George Pickens has. I mean, when he is engaged, and look, that is, I think, the key word here. When he is engaged, he is as good as any receiver in the NFL. And I think that's why CD Lamb said that. And look, CD 3 years ago would not have made those comments. So he has matured greatly. He also understands the need for another threat on the other side of the field, because teams, late last year were really starting to bracket and try to do everything they could to take away CeeDee Lamb, especially once Dak went down, just created all kinds of headaches. But when you consider those two, they've got a couple of good tight ends. The key is, as really it's been the last 3 years, which is the offensive line. What was once a strength for the Cowboys has really been in flux over the last 3 seasons. So I think you have to start at the offensive line. You've got a healthy Dak, but when George Pickens is engaged and when he is healthy, he can take the top off of defense. He can create all kinds of nightmare matchups. So I do believe that he can make an impact. But again, you got to give your quarterback time to throw the football. And look, the one thing I think that Shotty has made clear with this offensive line is that he wants to get back to establishing a run game. He knows how important it is, play action, to give Dak, giving them some balance. And that's been something that has been a little bit of a challenge. So I look for them to try to establish that. Whether they're successful in doing so remains to be seen. But if George Pickens can stay engaged and stay locked in, and look, it's up to him to perform because he's playing for another contract. So I think you have an opportunity to get the best version of George Pickens this year, if for no other reason, because he wants another bag.
So the rumors with Micah Parsons, obviously Myles Garrett got the big contract. TJ Watt is now another big pass rusher looking for a big contract, but Micah Parsons, trying to get that first one for him, being he's a fifth-year player this year. So what are your thoughts to the way that saga has gone down with the Cowboys?
Yeah, it's it has certainly been the topic du jour when it comes to Micah and Jerry and the Cowboys. They've had numerous discussions, and it feels like they keep saying we're close. I'm not, this is not unlike what we saw with Dak's deal, with CD's deal. And for whatever reason, the Dallas prefers to kind of string these things out. The one thing that you'll hear current GMs, former GMs say, the longer you wait on these kind of deals, once a guy becomes extension eligible, especially a player the level of Micah Parsons, you lock them up because the rates only can continue to go up. And Myles Garrett's deal is a perfect example. And I think if Dallas is smart, they will get a deal done before Watt's deal gets done, if it is in Pittsburgh where he stays. Because if he ends up signing a deal that's even bigger, well, now you're talking about Micah and his group saying, okay, well, if he's getting this, then I know we were close on this number 3 weeks ago. That number's now changed.
Yeah, I mean, it definitely changes, but I wanted to touch on something too. Like we've seen what Pickens, and obviously now coming to CD and CD growing, and like you said, wouldn't have said that 2-3 years ago. If they do that, who is the guy to step in? If we've heard the scuttlebutt about what Pickens has done. Is it Schottenheimer to do? Is it CD to step in? Is it Micah to step in, even though he doesn't have the contract? Because we have to know in the clubhouse, in the locker room, it can't always lie on the front office or our coach. We have to kind of take control of what we can control because we're the ones playing. Who do you think on that team is that person to do it if things get kind of out of hand a little bit?
Yeah, well, look, I think one of Dak's great attributes is his leadership ability, and the way that he does it. And so I think you would start with Dak. I think that CD has emerged and grown into being one of those voices in the locker room. And yeah, on the defensive side of the ball, you start with a Micah Parsons as well. They've lost some of that veteran leadership up on the offensive line. And so I think you start with those three guys first and foremost. And then, again, I do believe that you're going to get the best version of George Pickens because of he doesn't want to and can't afford to do anything to tarnish an image that, was not particularly great as he made his exit out of Pittsburgh. And as you guys pointed out, Mike Tomlin has always been a player's coach. And if you're getting sideways with Mike Tomlin, it leaves a sour taste in your mouth. But clearly the Cowboys have felt like they've done their due diligence. They've done their homework. And right now it's up to George Pickens. So time will tell.
We are talking to Phoenix Suns and Dallas Cowboys play-by-play broadcaster Kevin Ray. He's been a friend of the show for a while. He's been on the show multiple times, and we love him. And we're talking about the Cowboys right now. And the Cowboy that really sticks out to me is Dak Prescott. I've been a Dak Prescott supporter. I think a lot of people are harsh on him. I don't think people give him enough credit for what he does on the football field. Does he play well in the playoffs? How many quarterbacks show up in the playoffs and play well? Very few of them. If you look at the past, if you look at the last 15 years, there are not many quarterbacks that have very good playoff runs. We all know Tom Brady. We've known Joe Montana to do that. Peyton Manning wasn't good. Eli Manning made those runs. There are not many of them. And people forget, it wasn't Dak Prescott's fault on why they got their butts whipped by the Green Bay Packers. It was because Micah Parsons and the Cowboys defense didn't show up to that game really, really early in the game. And then Jordan Love just absolutely went on this just high-flying offense that we haven't seen a Green Bay Packer team do in a very long time, even with Aaron Rodgers. The problem here was the offensive side of the ball. And they added some big pieces to help Dak Prescott in the offseason. One of them, actually many of them, the running game. Javonte Williams, who was not very good over the last couple of years with the Broncos after the injury. I think a new scenery over there with Dallas, I think is going to help. Miles Sanders is a guy that's won before. He won, obviously, with the Philadelphia Eagles. And then Jaden Blue, who I think is going to be a special player. Give him a little bit of time. I think they have a running game, now George Pickens, to help Dak Prescott out. Why do you think Dak Prescott doesn't get enough credit? And do you think that the weapons that they added in the offseason, yes, they need to clean up the offensive line. They did in the first round, adding a nice offensive line. And what do you think they need to do to help Dak Prescott out to get him over the hump and maybe win a Super Bowl one way or another?
Yeah, look, I mean, when it comes to the criticism of Dak, and I've always been a Dak Prescott fan, he certainly put up some unbelievable, regular season numbers a couple of seasons ago, right there in the MVP conversations. But when you're playing for the Cowboys in particular, and you struggle in the playoffs the way the team has, and quite frankly, Dak has had his own struggles in the playoffs. You're going to get those shots. It's just the bottom line. And when you are playing for that team, you always start your career with a bullseye immediately. And then when you get the contract and you don't perform in those situations, and the drought's gone on as long as it has with the Cowboys, those shots, those critics are going to continue to get louder and louder. So it really is now in the hands of the Cowboys and Dak Prescott. But like I say, I think even in the NFC East, I think this is a team that can improve week by week. And I think they've got a chance to at the very least, make things much more difficult for their opponents that a lot of people are giving them credit for.
So Brian Schottenheimer was a kind of surprise hire for the Cowboys. A lot of people thought they were going to go after a bigger name coach.
He was the only hire.
We've heard this over the years. The Cowboys have sometimes been a leverage team for other teams to hire big name coaches like Sean Payton and guys like that. So what are your thoughts to the hire of Brian Schottenheimer, who's been an assistant coach for a while? And do you really believe, like you were saying with CeeDee Lamb and Dak Prescott, sometimes they wait too long on these other contracts, even with the coaches?
Yeah, I think when it comes to Shoddy, it's certainly a surprise. I think that everybody thought that because it was the Cowboys and because they'd gone after big names, you had a Mike McCarthy, that it was just assumed that they were going to go get another big name or one of, like a Ben Johnson, try to go after him, the hot offensive coordinator. But Shoddy and Dak Prescott have formed a tremendous both personal and professional relationship over the last few years, with Shoddy being in-house. So he knows the personnel, has a good understanding, has a good read on the room, and the players have a great read on him. And I think had that not been the case, that Dak would have voiced some concern and saying, I'm not sure he's the right, he can be the QB coach, but I'm not sure he's ready to be a head coach. And I think what added to the surprise is the fact that he's been on nobody's radar. I think, as I recall, his last head coaching interview came in, 2000, I want to say 13 or 14. But he's also a guy that really pursued other head coaching jobs. He's been content in being kind of that, the quarterback's coach, the offensive coordinator. Timing sometimes, just becomes as much of a factor, and an individual's reasons also become a factor, their motivation. He clearly felt like this was a position that was kind of meant and fit for him. So, remains to be seen. But, when you get your starting quarterback that gives you the green light, that goes a long way in making the executive staff, Jerry Jones, Stephen Jones, feel good about the decision.
I love that you say that, because it's as somebody that sees it being in that realm and you covering it and doing that. And I wanted to ask you a question too, because it's something that I've always wondered. And I know baseball. I don't know football. I don't know basketball because I don't know the intricacies of it. But especially when you have guys that are outspoken and you have guys that created a relationship with not only the front office, but you created a relationship with what Dak and they've done. Where do you think the advice or how you pull and pry back and forth of like what we need to do scheme wise, like, do you think it just comes from one avenue, or do you think they actually, and we've talked about this with the baseball side, is like, if something goes on, we want to pull our leaders in to let them understand, like, this is what we're going to do. Do they give that right to Dak and those guys?
Oh yeah,
to be like, this is what we're going to do.
Yeah, no, it is full on, especially because Shoddy has been there. It is full on collaboration.
That's awesome.
Between Dak, between CD, Shoddy, and some of the other, I'm guessing at least another one or two players, and then also the coaching staff, because when you put that much financially into a couple of those players, you have to find the things that makes them comfortable. It's always one of the things that I found interesting is how coaches, you'll get a play that might work for the guy, and for whatever reason, the coach will move away from it. And I've always been of the mindset, like, if you find something that works until the defense shows they can stop it on a consistent basis, keep going back to that. And
wait, Kev, do you ever feel like it's a player that recognizes that before a coach, or like, is it?
I think it's both. I think it's both, because certainly when you're a player, you're on the field. You may be hearing communications from the defense that a coach doesn't, so the player can relay that then to the coach. And then you've also got your coaches up in the box that may see formations that a coach on the sideline can't. So that's why I say it's full on collaboration. A coach might all of a sudden get in Dak's headset and say, look, this is what they're showing, but this is what's happening right at the snap. You'll constantly see in certain defenses, they'll give you pre-snap movement just to try to see what you will do offensively. So that's the give and take through the course of from an entire game.
All right, Kevin, before we let you go, all right, so I know you have your own opinion. You are in the Cowboys are in probably the second hardest division in the NFC. I will say the North is the hardest. I don't know what Detroit's going to be this year. They lost all those coaches, but they have a tremendous amount of talent on that roster. But they lost a tremendous amount of coaches on that roster as well. So, but I expect Green Bay to be good this year. I expect Chicago to be good this year. And I expect Minnesota to be good this year. But your division is probably the second hardest division right now in the NFC. You have Jaden Daniels. You have Jalen Hurts. You have a tremendous amount of talent. You have the lonely Giants sitting back there. We don't know who their starting quarterback's going to be by week 7 or week 8 because Russell Wilson just is an absolute debacle.
Nobody knows, by the way.
The only thing I like to look at when it comes to Russell Wilson is his wife, Ciara. But besides that,
trading Russell Wilson.
That's it. I mean, I just want to see her dance. So she's shaking her rear end. That's good enough for me. But your opinion right now with the NFC East, who scares you the most? The Commanders made a significant amount of moves. They added a wide receiver. They added some running backs. They added some good defense, which they were one of the better defenses in the league last year. And Jeremy Tunsil, yes, offensive line. Do they scare you, or does the Georgia Eagles scare you after winning the Super Bowl?
Yeah, look, I think that I would have to put them both at the top of the list. And to your point, yeah, Washington made a lot of moves. I'm a huge Dan Quinn fan. I really enjoyed the time when he was in Dallas. You know, a lot of folks, including myself, was hoping that they would have gotten Quinn there in that role 2 years earlier, but that that did not transpire. But I like what the Washington Commanders have done. Philadelphia, they lost some pieces. That goes, pretty much goes hand in hand. Anytime you win a Super Bowl, you're going to lose some pieces. But those are the two teams, and I think, frankly, I'm not sure that there is much separation between the two. Now, you got to get it done on the field. Philadelphia did last year. They've shown they have been the class of the NFL and the NFC East in particular over the last few years. But those two teams are going to battle it out. And, if the Cowboys can somehow scratch out at least 1 or 2 wins against them, take care of the Giants, they could find themselves, I think, in a potential wild card situation.
That first win with the Cowboys against Washington must have been crazy for you to call with that crazy ending. That was. Yeah, it was one of the wildest games and wildest last 5 minutes I've ever done.
It's the only thing wild now.
Hold on.
Yeah.
What is your wildest game that you've sat there and like, holy crap, like,
we've heard this
what is going on? Well, I haven't heard it.
All right, I'm just telling you. I think we've heard this before.
Well, that one, even though it didn't impact,
it can change year to year,
a playoff game or anything. The one that still, will always be a catch in my mind was Dez in Green Bay. It should have been ruled a catch and was not. I think in that case, the Cowboys advanced. And I think that was their last best team that could have won a Super Bowl. So
Kevin,
in that regard.
This is why I love you, because I remember exactly what you said. I remember it was like 2 interviews ago when we brought that. I think Speedy asked the question. Yep. And I laughed because I remember it and I'll never forget it. And Des Bryant getting up and just like jumping up in the air and like cursing to the referees. Des Bryant is one of the most unique personalities I've ever seen. I would love to hear. Analyst. I think he's crazy. But the stories, remember Walmart? Remember that Walmart story with his girlfriend and something broke out? I think a fight broke out at Walmart and Des Bryant was in between him, his girlfriend, and somebody else. I mean, the guy is one of the funniest, unique individual. I never met him. You met him. What type of person is Des Bryant?
Yeah, in my encounters with Des have been, brief, typically down the sidelines or whatever, but he's always been great. High energy, positive spirit guy. And, Des is still just, he loves competition. And that's what you saw every time he pulled the uniform on. And he's the kind of guy that you want to call games of, and it was a thrill to do it while he was in a Cowboys uniform. But I will go to my grave calling that a catch and should have been a Cowboys win.
I want to make an announcement to you because I don't think you know, but last month we're almost at 100,000 downloads a month. We're almost there on Spotify and Apple. Okay, so and we're popular all over the East and West Coast. So I one of the things that you've seen as our show grow, personalities wise, and you've been with us for a while. So I think not only are we gracious for you to join us, but watching our show grow, and now with Joba and the different unique, ways we kind of put this platform center stage. By the way, I don't know if you know this, we signed with Blue Wire too. We signed a year contract with Blue Wire, so that's something new too. So
fantastic! Congratulations on both accomplishments.
Thank you. And now we're hoping that very, very soon a major network, maybe in Dallas, will think to bring us on as their lead personalities. That would be cool, right? Dallas, us, Joba Chamberlain.
Hey, there's no state taxes in Texas, baby.
That's all Joba cares about.
I'm not stupid.
I don't know if Fish is going to like that, but hey, you know what? It's all about the mucho dinero, as we all know, Mr. Ray. So, but we really appreciate all the things that you do, and vouch for us when it's time for us to pitch it to one of those big networks out there. I wouldn't mind going to Texas. I mean,
I will definitely keep that in mind. I'll always appreciate the invite. Great to catch up with you guys, and we'll do so again once,
Kev,
once the season starts rolling.
Do you hunt?
Do I hunt?
Yeah.
I don't. No.
Oh. Well, I got a ranch in Normanna, Texas that my aunt and uncle run. So
well, if you don't hunt, we can hunt for
Joba.
We can hunt for them.
Joba.
We'll put some antlers on them. We'll put some antlers on them, and we'll go.
Hey,
hunting.
Get him out of here. You got.
Thanks, guys.
Thanks. Appreciate you. Thank you.
Take care.